All right, guys. All right. Welcome to the Worcester Arts Council meeting. We're going to start with the minutes. Everyone got the email with the minutes, not from last month because that was not able to happen, but from the month prior. Were there any questions or anybody have any concerns in regards to the minutes? If not, can I get a motion to approve the July minutes?
I'll motion.
Can I get a second? Second? All right. All in favor of approving July's minutes, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, cool. Any opposed? Awesome.
Sorry,
Let's
just
go
real
ahead.
quick, who
Oh,
motioned to approve? Sorry.
yeah. Oh no, you're good. That was Jenny.
Thank you.
All right. Section for public questions. Do we have anybody from the public in the waiting room or anything, Meg? No? All right. The budget report, the budget was sent over the email. As you guys can see in the cover section or the cover tab, currently we have in the actual available balance $8,803.46. Does anybody have any questions or are there any concerns in regards to what you guys are seeing there? If not, can I get a motion to approve that budget?
Motion.
All right, can I get a second? Awesome. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, cool. Moving along, I just wanted to take a moment again, say thank you to everyone who was able to show up in this last season, who was able to show up for the Out to Lunch series, everybody who's been sharing information about the survey. I know that we're heading into, I believe, an even more difficult season. And on top of that, we have the applications are now live for people to start putting in for grants for the next season. And I know that we're all very busy. We're all doing a lot of things. So I just want to take a quick second and just thank everybody for the work that we have been doing, and just kind of encourage us moving forward, because I don't think it's going to be getting any easier. With that said, please feel free to keep communicating with me if you guys feel, because I know we've had this discussion a little bit now, if 6:30 works best for people versus 6. We can go offline on emails and we can talk about that, and we can consider moving our meetings and making this like the set time if that's what works for everyone. But yeah, moving forward, just please know that you guys can let me know if anything's popping up, because I know that we all want to be here for this, and I want to make sure that we can all keep working together on this, on all the grant applications that we're going to be reviewing soon. Next thing I wanted to talk about, there's a new face on the screen today. I want to introduce our newest member to the council, Aaron Michelotti. I'm going to go ahead and give you the space to talk and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Nice to virtually meet you all. Um, just a little bit about myself. I am a financial consultant for Deloitte. Um, and my background is in grant financial accounting. So before I became a consultant with Deloitte, I worked for a number of research organizations and universities doing um, medical medical research, working in their departments as a grant manager, um, in central offices negotiating grant contracts, and then in central offices managing post-award. So doing grants management and like financial accounting for them. And then I moved over to Deloitte doing pretty much the exact same thing, except I was handling implementation of software that works for grant accounting for different institutions of higher education, as well as like medical universities and hospitals. Um, uh, so I'm very familiar with grants processes and proposal processes. I have written a number of last minute proposals helping researchers meet deadlines for proposals on the science side. On the arts side, I've always been very involved personally with the arts communities. Growing up, I was a musical theater nerd, part of like a musical theater and like classical piano and classical voice um, uh, conservatories, and then have a minor in interdisciplinary arts, where because the school that I went to didn't have a musical theater minor. So I've always been very involved in the arts, and I'm really looking forward to contributing positively to Worcester's art scene. And with that, do any of you have any questions for me?
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, great, great.
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, so obviously you guys can see the last name is the same. There's a reason for that. This is arguably my better half. So much more put together than I am in a lot of ways. Um, but she really does understand grants, contracts, she understands finances, and kind of, to move on to the next segment too. And I'm down, I really am open to having conversations about this some more if anybody does have any questions or concerns. But the biggest reason why we wanted to, and it wasn't just me, but invite her to join the council, is to gain that level of expertise. We've been missing a treasurer for a while, and according to certain like rules in regards to arts local creative councils, we are required to have guidelines. Thank you. We are required to have a treasurer as well as a chair and a secretary at all times. And so I'm going to go ahead and open this up for everyone. Again, please, like, this is open. If you have questions, concerns, this is the time to bring them up now, especially. But my hope is that we can talk about not just having her come on as just a regular member, but to bring her on as a treasurer. And so I am going to put it up for a vote here in a bit, but I did want to open that up to everybody here, to really, you know, feel free to ask, say whatever, you think, you want to say in regards to bringing in, a wife onto the council. I, I mean, I'm just being fair.
I'll jump in and say welcome. And the only question I'm going to ask based on your intros is, did you say arguably or inarguably? Because if we want to argue if she's your better half, I could think we could do that. But inarguably might be a better word. Just saying. All right.
And that sounds like something that I would be told behind the scenes when this meeting is off, that I use the wrong language. So, so inarguably. But yeah, does anybody else have anything that they want to add? I will say, as far as the arts go, one of the reasons why we do work well together is we have very different tastes when it comes to what we like. She is more on the classical side of the arts, and wishes to see
Tradition.
tradition upheld, traditional arts upheld in society. I'm kind of a person who wants to see how we can keep stretching and pushing. And I know that I may not always align with her, so I'm gonna let her say something though. She's motioning, so
Yeah, in short, I cannot get Chris to attend the opera or the ballet with me.
yes, yes, that is true. I've given it shots. Um, But does anybody have any other thoughts, any other questions or concerns that they would like to raise? Because if not, I would like to ask that we can make a motion to vote on welcoming Aaron, not just in the council, but as our treasurer to help get stuff in order. So if anybody wants to say, would like to say that they're down for that.
I'm down for that. Down for that.
Nice. Okay. Can I get a second to start the vote?
Second.
All right. Oh, all right, cool. All right. So we're going to do a vote to welcome Aaron as our treasurer. So all those in favor, raise a hand, say aye. All right. Any opposed? All right, cool. Thank you so much, Aaron. Welcome as treasurer as well to the group. I really do not envy you looking at all the numbers and doing that stuff.
There'll be so many Excel documents in my future. I'm so
Lot of Excel documents. Speaking of numbers, something that I have learned pretty recently, our admin budget that we voted for at the beginning of the year does not roll over. So that money that we have to spend needs to be spent so that we don't lose it. I was hoping that maybe we can talk about some ways that we can use that money to better prepare us for next year. I know that with the Out to Lunch festival, we have burnt through a lot of our freebies, a lot of our swag that we have. So I figured that this could be a really good opportunity to come up with um, some new things that we could be giving out for next year at any other future festivals that we do. I know that we've already voted for it, and I know that there's going to be a charge with it. But the person that initially was going to work with us on the name tags um, couldn't get that project done. They had to take another job, and so that was never something that was able to happen. But I have found another person who that's what they do. And so that process is going to go through really fast. We're going to it'll be the same amount that we've already voted for and approved. But I kind of wanted to open this up to the council, just if anybody had any other ideas for how we can use the money to better prepare us for next year.
I'll say magnets were a huge hit the other night at Draglasque. People loved the magnets, so more of those. Different types. Everybody loved the smiley faces, but yeah, magnets is my vote.
Yeah, I would share something that just is everywhere, and we should probably consider when we send out promotional items a QR code that says like, go to our website. Here are some events. This is what's going on. This is what WAC is, right? Like that way, it's also actionable. So if we can get someone with the design to have a QR code on there versus a website, because I feel like people just don't like typing no more. So yeah.
No, I think that's a really good idea and a really good point. Meg, do we still have the account with that one QR code that's supposedly linked to the survey that they'd used in the past? Because I know there was like a monthly fee, and I can't remember if we canceled that account or not.
I think we did pay for it, but I can double check for sure tomorrow.
All right, cool. Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Just quick clarification question. When is the end of the Worcester fiscal year? Does it align with the federal government being at the end of September that we need to, no, end of the actual year?
So the city's fiscal year end is June, I believe.
Okay.
Um, I don't know what the MCC like how they do it. I'm not sure.
Good questions. Anybody have any other ideas or thoughts of how we can um, use the money so we don't lose it? Um, I will ask, I guess I will ask another question then, Meg, if or since the fiscal year ends in July, I think you said June, thank you. I was, yeah. So because it ends then, would we be able to take some of the budget that we approved for or voted for admin and maybe apply it to possibly another grant for the upcoming fiscal year?
I'd have to check with Fabian because I'm not sure how that works exactly, or maybe Lisa, since she has more experience with that. But I can definitely find out.
Okay. Because if we can't figure out how to spend all the money, which is, I guess, a good problem to have, if we can't figure out how to spend it, that could be another option for us so that we have the possibility of getting more grants out for next year. All right, cool. What we can do then is if you guys find anything online, what we'll do is we'll start an email thread and start talking about what people are liking. So as Cassie was saying, magnets, people seem to like those. If you're finding other cool magnet ideas, if it's since it's next year in June when the time ends, maybe we could even do a kind of like I don't want to say contest, but we can have find maybe one or two local artists and fund for them to create some new designs that then we can put on some shirts or make some more magnets or create some Worcester Arts Council stickers that are um, maybe more we can update the designs and make them cool to make more people want to see them or share them and stuff. So but cool, I just want to make sure I brought that up. So if you guys come up with anything else or think of anything, we'll start another email chain about that, and we'll make sure we get all the proper votes in before June of next year so that we can allocate the money appropriately. um all right, Aaron.
Um, Uh, is Meg, is there like a cutoff date? Like the end of the fiscal year is end of June. Is there like a cutoff date for like when expenses need to be in by then, or can we spend up to the end of June?
Um, that's a great question. Um, I don't know. I
Okay.
can find out. So yeah, I'm just gonna add that to my list of things to check.
Okay, great.
All right. So also speaking of speaking of surveys that we talked about earlier, move on to the next thing. We did get our survey results. Basically, it came out with the exact same things that we were looking for last year. The orders flipped around a little bit, but arts education, visual arts or public art, and then live music, I believe, were the top three things for this year. Um, so those are going to be our kind of our guiding uh, desires that we're going to be looking for when we're looking at the applications for this next grant cycle. When people ask questions, like kind of offline, if they're like, what kind of things are we looking for? Um, we can freely let people know that. I know that when I get back from vacation, Victor and I are going to get together and we're going to work on the workshop information, the slides that we have that we used in the past to reflect the survey results and just kind of do some light cleaning. Um, Speaking of that, um, we are going to have, I think we're looking at two online workshops to inform people about what about the application process, let them ask questions if they have them. And then I'm also trying to set up a live workshop meeting at the Worcester Art Museum because we have finished the agreements between the Worcester Art Museum and the Worcester Arts Council. So for next grant cycle, if anybody who applies for a WAC grant gets it, then all hashtag WAC funded uh, projects and events, if they are located at the Worcester Arts Museum, they will be able to save money on the venue rental. Um, and so hopefully we can get some more community events over at the Art Museum and it can start feeling more like it is a Worcester, like a Worcester location and not just a building that people in Worcester see. So I'm really excited to see what that's going to look like and what kind of events we could be seeing at the museum. Um, so we'll let everybody know more about that when we get times and dates finalized through the email. And anybody who can take part in those, we will welcome you as being a part of that. Um, and then speaking of grant applications, I wanted to talk about scheduling the review meetings. So last grant cycle felt more, um, it felt really fast. We got through a lot of grant applications, I think in a very timely manner. Uh, I would like to have us, um, I would like to have the meetings not feel so uh unplanned. Uh One of the things with last year that I was not the biggest fan of was that because of when the meetings were scheduled, when people couldn't show up to do their votes or to say their numbers, their votes were completely just wiped off of what went to the credits of those projects in dictating what their scores were. And again, like it's really important that we have all of us represented in those scores because so many of us hit so many different pockets of the creative community in our city. And so, um, what I'm going to propose, and I would love to hear other people's opinions, but what I would like to propose is that we set aside at least 2 full days to really hammer out um, going over these together, these applications together, and then having a date um, and with the applications closing October 16th, in one of our regular meetings that we always have, I would like to make it to where we all show up at the regular meeting and we can all just say like give our scores together and count them out in one full swoop. So yeah, so two meetings where we just break things down, share our opinions, and have the discourse about where we stand on the applications, and then probably our November meeting where we do our final tally. But if that is too late, then we'll find another day. But like having just one set meeting where we just go through all the scores together. So I'd love to, like I said, love to hear anybody else's opinions on how we could make last year's process, I think, more streamlined. Um, that's just something I've been mulling over in my head.
How long are you thinking these meetings will be?
Um, so the question being, how long will these meetings be? Sorry about that. I'm thinking that the two long meetings to go over the applications and stuff. I'm trying to remember if anybody knows precisely how long the meetings were last time, but I want to say I'm considering that it'd be like 5 hour meetings, so we probably have like it would probably be weekends, it would probably be a Saturday or Sunday, and then we'll probably need to make sure that we have either start with breakfast and then do the meetings, or do the meetings and end with like a or and have like a lunch in between. But again, does anybody have any thoughts or on how last year's meetings went and if what they would like to see changed?
Uh, I'll just say on my own behalf, but again, my circumstances are special. That would be really tough for me because I basically Saturdays I don't have, and Sundays we now have orchestra. So those longer periods would be a little difficult. I don't know how everyone else's schedules are, but
No, that's a good point. And like I said, if that's the case for everybody, then we can go back to the trying to get like multiple mini meetings together where we can break them down, and just have like a goal where, you know, everybody make sure that you've gone through applications 1 through 15 because we're going to set aside 2 hours to go through each of those. And then a few days later 16 through 30 and so on. We can look at doing that as well. Again, also during those application meetings too, I think it'll just make more sense to just stay online, so that everyone has the ability to possibly um, just to kind of keep the calendars as open as possible, because I know it's easier for people to meet online. So any other thoughts or opinions on last year, how we did handle this last year versus what you'd like to fix for this coming up year?
Just because I'm not super aware, last year, did you like do grant applications 1 through 15, 20, and then vote, like compile all of your scores together and vote on it in like that way? Or did you do like a mass voting in your monthly or biweekly meeting?
Yeah, so to to answer that, what we did last year was everybody spent the time to look over the applications themselves. Then they filled out this, then we all filled out our scorecards, and then we went through a cycle of mentioning the project, sharing our scores, or what our thoughts are, and then we just gave our votes. So we just did big chunk, big chunk, big chunk, if I recall correctly, because I think it was over a series of 3 meetings that we were able to knock out all the applications. But if anybody remembers it differently, please correct me.
And it's a requirement that that council members have to be there in person to provide their scores in order for those scores to be counted. Okay.
Any other questions or thoughts, Victor?
I don't know what it's a, I don't know whether it's a question or thought. It'd be a combination of the both. I think about the surveys from the previous year, and I always think about zip codes, and I think about the number of folks who visit from outside of the city. So when I'm scoring on public benefit, and I know that we have folks from Millbury and Grafton and Leominster, right? Like Leicester, we have their feedback. One of the biggest things that becomes a struggle for me when scoring is what is perceived by as public benefit by each of us, given that we all have different lived experiences, right? So, Chris, you might think the nightlife thing is a public benefit. I often don't see it because Worcester's almost one of those cities that shuts down, or maybe there's some corner stuff that I don't know about. So I don't know what like nightlife happens in the city of Worcester. So when I hear someone say on a Tuesday night, I want to be here, to me, that's not public benefit. I'd score that low, right? So I hope that we can have a conversation about what those max fives mean, but also on our scoring sheet, identify what a minimum one is. Because if we only have on the scoring sheet what the maximum score could be and identifiers for that, what is a three and what is a one? Right. There's also other things. We're trying to get folks into art. We're trying to get them into money. And some of the stuff around their skill is shows a mastery of their craft. Well, what if someone's really interesting? We know they have a following and they could deliver on it because they've done tons of projects. They just haven't had that limelight. What does that look like? So I think prior to us having the scoring session and then those conversations, because the last group, all of us collectively, we didn't really bump too many heads, but you brought to my attention that was all about environmental awareness, and that was a big thing for me, right? Whereas there were other folks who were like, yeah, not everything has to be a family event. So there are some middle ground that we have to lay out as a group so that we can like just really make sure the money goes where it is and public benefit is at its maximum opportunity.
No, I think that's a really great point. I remember last year during the scoring cycle, one of my hangups was connected more with visibility. There were quite a few projects where we had long discussions about how, with that public benefit, a group of elementary school students getting a mural inside a school, inside their library. And while there might be a lot of benefit to the families and to the students, because nobody outside of that smaller community gets to see it, is there really a public benefit? And like, I know that for me, I was like, at bare minimum, if you're doing something for a separate group within the larger community, especially in something where there's going to be doors and ways and I guess gatekeeping to what is being funded, um, at bare minimum, there should be at least like a public, like a public reception or something that allows for everybody to be welcomed into the space to see what's being funded and see how that is going to benefit those elementary school students, maybe in a neighborhood that they may not see it. Because again, not everybody's even going to have kids, but it's still good for them to have the ability to go to a school, to see the children's faces, to see the art, and to understand that, as corny or as hokey as it may sound, wow, these are my tax dollars at work, and I'm seeing the benefit to my community and what it can like mean for those students. And all right,
I,
and
oh,
what was that?
I was just going to say, I think there is a definition with community though that gets confused. And it's also, having been on some of these different grants, people are getting really hung up on the fact that they're supposed to now have a performance piece or for people to come in. And it's like, that doesn't really work well like I was working the Great Brook Valley, right? Like I'm working with those kids. That's very beneficial to that community. It's not appropriate to be bringing people in. In fact, one of the problems we had is that one of the requirements for reporting is you need to put a flyer together. Well, then you've got kids that cannot be on that flyer because they cannot be photographed. So I think I have a fundamental sort of confusion with w- like why we're defining public benefit as people being able to come and see, or we have Worcester is made up of a lot of different areas, and then also it gets confusing because we have things like, and I had this problem last year with like street festivals are getting funded, but there's actually a MCC festivals grant that they could have been going for where it doesn't. So there's just a lot of places where it gets confused, or then on the application process. And I still feel like this is not the appropriate time to do it, but to simplify some of those processes, because there's that whole question about, is this K through 12? Well, it's like, well, then it's just very confusing in general for people filling these grants out, knowing, are we funding individual artists? Are we looking for, so, and maybe some of that's on MCC for not being clear, or maybe that's on us. I don't really know, but
No, and I think that's kind of what Victor was kind of talking about, is that I think it would be really good for all of us to have these conversations. Like, so like you're all bringing up really good points right now, because we do need to. I agree, Victor. Like, there was not a lot of butting heads, there wasn't a lot of disagreement, and I think last year it was less because we had differing opinions, and it was more because, as what Jenny just said, we were all still very new and there wasn't a lot of guidance in what it is that we were necessarily looking for. And so I think that at bare minimum, let's, when we go through what our potential calendars are, let's also kind of set ourselves up well to have an initial meeting where we can go through all these things, talk about, when we hear this language, what is it that we're seeing, or what is it that we're hearing, when like during in the survey, if arts education is the number one thing that people want to see, what is arts education in our understanding? And so let that be a guiding light for ourselves in the voting process, at least for this year. And to kind of also jump a little bit onto what Jenny just said, there is I can't remember the organization, and Meg, we got it. I know we got emails from them. There is going to be a gathering within a couple weeks, and I'll see if I can get that forwarded to all of you guys. But there will be a gathering where they're going to try to get all members from all kinds of different local creative councils to come together. And I think this is going to be a space where we can ask these questions, and we can bounce ideas, not just for the Worcester Arts Council, but for the Leominster Arts Council, for Paxton, Holden, all the central, because it's going to be focused solely on the central mass local creative councils. And we're going to have representation from the MCC there. And I think that'll be a really great opportunity for us to bring those types of questions up, because, if the expectation is that if the MCC has festival grants that all these festivals can apply for, does that mean that we're not even supposed to be looking at those as possible as possible projects for us to fund because that exists? Or is it just that is just a separate pool that these street festivals can apply both to our grants through the LCCs, and they can apply through the MCC for that particular grant as well, because the MCC and the state of Massachusetts wants to see more cultural and street festivals here in the area.
Are there any, is there a question about other like grants funding on the application? like for specific projects?
I mean, there's a budget where, they put in whether or not there's going to be some earned income and some unearned income and what will happen if you can't make that. I mean, the other thing that I struggle with the local arts council stuff too is that, people are people, so they tend to like go for the highest amount they think. So we say, oh, 5,000. So people are going for 5,000 where clearly, I feel like there's all these things. Well, can they even do what they say they're going to be doing? Do they really need 5,000? And the other thing is, personally, and I've been on other local arts councils in Massachusetts, so I know Worcester's a bit different, but I feel like it would be really nice to be putting most of the money, and I'm saying this as an organization as well, but putting most of the money towards individuals who can't get grants in any other ways. Like Worcester Arts, the museum, obviously Jump, where I am, all these places, we do have other sources of funding. But individuals, they don't have other sources of funding. So, and the other, I've been out and just like talking to different people. There's been a lot of complaints that a lot of, especially individual artists, they are not accomplished people in writing grants. They feel like the grant application is obtuse. I would agree that that's probably true. So I think, and I don't think that we're in a position to be passing judgment a lot of times on like merit. I think we can pass judgment on, you know, do we think people will be able to use these resources? But it would be lovely to see something where maybe we have a line of grant money put aside for artists and, but it's not the 5,000. We're like, look, you want to come in for 500, that's going to help you and we'll simplify that process. This might be way too late in the year to do something like that, but I think the way that we manage the resources that we're being given and how we distribute those, which is why I hate the fellowship project. I know I've said it before, but it really pisses me off because it's taking it out of the hands of um, you know, artists, it's taking, it's reducing the amount that we can give out there. So that might be something we need to think about in advance too. And then also, I remember when we went through the grants process and it did come up stuff like, well, Worcester Arts Museum, why are we even considering it? It's like, well, we need to be clear with people out front because I would find it annoying to also put a grant in and be like, oh, we're not even going to consider you because you're too big. So unfortunately, there are all of these questions. And, again, probably, those are the places that I would really want to focus on because I'd really like to see the money get into the hands of people where it's going to make a difference,
Yeah.
you know. Which
Victor?
is why, the arts festivals, I'm like, they're, a lot of them have, they're selling vendors booths, they're selling things. So what are we funding?
I can actually answer a little bit of that, but I want to hand it over to Victor real quick. Your hand was raised.
No, Jen's been saying so many things that I agree with. The first one is stop slum tourism. I'm ready with that. The other one, speaking about these large organizations, one of the things I always think about, and as you mentioned, the application, yeah, an organization that writes grants all the time, it's going to be copy paste, copy paste. Someone else isn't going to be able to replicate that. So that's something we have to be aware of. The other thing I think of when I think about the opposite side of that statement is the amount of visibility that we get from the larger organizations.
Well,
We
that's
can't pay
true.
for
Yeah.
that, right? So how do we balance that as
Yeah.
well as make sure that in the large format with the more institutionalized groups, we get as much as we can in terms of publicity and
Mhm.
for this group and for the work that's being done, while at the same time, the groups that are smaller and need the help, we find a way to and just make connections to the bigger institutions as well as highlight them more. So when we do get these folks who are an individual or a small group that gets it, how do we support them in a sense of we want to promote you as much as we can. We want to get you in the right room. We want your art to be visible. And I think that's something that I would love to push for in the next year as a council member.
Yeah, I love that, Victor. I totally agree. And that's a great point too about like, an organization like Jump or the museums. It's like we have a lot of people going across our social media and going across our website. So putting WAP's logo there and MCC's logo there is really helpful and it is connecting it in other ways. So awesome.
And no, and I 100% agree. To the festival concept, though, you're right. A lot of them do sell booth space or table space. What I have come to find doing as an event producer myself, is, and I know not everybody thinks this way, but if I can get funding or sponsorships, my goal then is to one, ensure that the most amount of people can make it. So I don't like selling tickets or ticket prices or anything to that can create a barrier for people to attend the festivals or the events that I do. And two, it also allows me to lower the costs for those table rentals so that smaller artists and local groups can find it more feasible to attend and set up shop, and then make money or show off their wares in those spaces when I've done them in the past. Again, I can't speak to every single event programmer in the city and what they've done. But I know that these basically it's not a situation where the grant funding is like going to line my wallets. It's going to make sure that more people are going to be able to both attend and just it makes the events more lively. So I know that I have a bias to supporting cultural festivals, and some of these groups are much smaller and they're not like established groups that are setting up the festivals. And so I still want to make sure that we, and I know for myself, will continue to support them, but we continue to want to see those cultural festivals. Not to say you're saying that they shouldn't exist, but like see them thriving in the city. Because especially for younger artists and younger creators, those are really great opportunities for them to cut their teeth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
uh,
that's I think that's fair. And you maybe it just goes back to that idea of, well, how do we allocate resources? And
yeah,
because that was what really troubled me with the whole thing too, is I was like, how the hell do you like it's not apples to apples in so many different parts. And it was really difficult with the rubric to sorry,
yeah.
I'm at work.
No, no, no,
Really difficult
100%.
with the rubric to kind of like figure out how to allocate and where to put that. It
100%.
became like a spitball, kind of like, oh, okay, let's do that. Okay.
And I think too, part of it was again last year all of us were really new and it was our first time going through it. And I really hope that with what Victor suggested that we can find a time so that we can move with more of an understanding of what it is we're doing, and it doesn't feel kind of like at least for me it kind of felt a little heady and like it's like, well, yeah, of course I want to see this, so I'm going to give it a good score. And like there may have been times like I'm like, what's the difference between a 3 and a 4? Like, is it just me liking the idea of this a little bit more? So I'm going to give it a 4 versus a 3. So yeah, I like those are all great points. Aaron, you had your hand raised.
Yeah. Um, so it sounds like, based off of what I'm hearing as still a little bit of an outsider, is that like the real priority for the Worcester Arts Council this year, outside of what has been provided in the survey, is really making sure that the people who are going to be the most impacted by other grant funding being cut is like the priority. People who aren't going to necessarily have other like forms of grant funding through like individuals, whether that's going to be uh like young artists who are going to be able to have like free booth space or like reduced booth space at festivals. It kind of seems like across the board that's generally what you're saying. Am I right in that? Am I wrong in that?
Well, I mean, I think for me, one of the things is that there's certain people that there's just not a lot of grants out there for them. This is about it. And then there's other organizations that there are more options or opportunities, or there are different ability to bring in earned income. So how do we support those emerging, maybe they're emerging artists, or they're, how do we support that? And and keep Worcester as this vibrant cultural place where, people at all these different levels can have that ability. And
And
it's not a ton of money, so but for some people, obviously a little bit of money is going to go longer than it is for other people.
No, absolutely. And I did talk to Greg a little bit. Greg is our representative with the MCC. I did talk with him about once the money does come to us, if we want to set aside, and this is something that I think we've talked about and we've talked around at different meetings. But if we want to set aside funding for people who have never received a grant from us before, if we want to set aside like 20,000, 25,000, or whatever that may look like, we can 100% say this amount, however it may be, however much it may be, is going to solely be for new grantees only. And so that would I'm that would just, I think, be an additional opportunity because it allows for you know, Tamantha, who is wanting to do a project. She's never done this before, she's never applied for a grant. It allows her to have access to that first pool of potential grant money. But if we go through and we find all of the first time, people that we like, if she were to not have gotten it in that first go round, she's still part of the larger pool. And so she may miss the cutoff for the 20,000 that we set aside for first time grantees, but she makes the cutoff for the grant anyway amongst the competition for the larger pool.
You lost me.
Sorry.
Sorry,
So,
what?
no. So no, that's totally fine. So if like let's just say we have $100,000, we set 20,000 aside for first time people. All the first time people are going to be looking at that potential 20,000, like whatever how much they're asking for out of that first pool. If they don't get it from the first pool, they're still part of that larger pool. It's just if we're saying like out of those 20 people, we give the scores and we say the top 5 people from this pool.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they may be interchanged
Yeah.
amongst them. Like someone may have gotten may have gotten 23, and so the cutoff might be at a 24.5. That 23 still gets grant money
Yeah.
because it beats a lot of people on the larger pool,
Yeah.
but that's going to be
Yeah, I got it.
yeah.
Is there a stipulation though, on how many cycles a person can receive funding too? Because that's the other thing that would open up. It's like you have to take a year off if,
I have not
you
seen
know,
I have not seen
it's,
any stipulation like that.
yeah, because that was one of the things I noticed too, was that there were definitely people that just keep getting it every year. And to me, that feels a little like, oh yeah, I have a hard stop too. Sorry, Victor. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, it does feel like, getting new people in, getting that money going to other people. We shouldn't just be like, oh, hey, they got it last year. Let's do it again.
Okay. Let's continue the conversation. We'll send out a Calendly thing to set up calendars, and let's find a time we can get as many people for a reintroduction to the scoring process and to clarify what the scores are, kind of what Victor was saying, because I really like that idea. And then also the dates that we want to do our meetings, to go over the projects and the applications, and then we'll have a set time where we can all come together, give our scores so that all the voices and areas that we represent can be represented in that scoring process.
Great.
For the hard stops, I'm going to go ahead and I want to move us over to the staff updates. Meg, I know that you sent an email out, so I'm going to leave it to you to talk about that.
Yeah, you're talking about the David Dominguez one?
Yes.
Yeah. So he got back to us again and he's looking to reallocate the money that he wanted for the El Salvador festival that he canceled. And now he wants to do a Latin American Winter Festival. I think the only stipulation is he has to do it within this calendar year. Like he has to do it in 2025. Otherwise, it's not possible. So yeah, it's up to you guys if you want to let him do that or not.
Well, if I remember correctly, we did already take a vote in an earlier meeting saying that as long as it fit within that realm, we were fine with it. However, I will go ahead and open it up real quick if anybody has any concerns or anything they want to add to it. I think it would also be really beneficial if we can help them find a venue. I know I sent an email about that, but help them find a space so that they can really make that a cool event um, and have it happen and feel safe as well.
Yeah, I was gonna share that. That'd be cool. The other opportunity we could do, I don't know, we have extra money on. I know we have the budget and everything, but if we could help with extra security, if that's a thing, right? Like given,
Yeah.
I don't know how much cops cost per hour, but I know there's always a cop somewhere. So if he could fit that into what he has, or we could support it, because changing location and it being indoors has proven that it doesn't even matter. Um,
I know that's a great point. I know that there are some rules in regards to us giving grant money to state employees, um, meaning that we can't. However, I'm I'll Meg, we'll see if we can, maybe this could be something we can use with our administration budget as well. And so if there is a separation from that, because it's not grant money, it's our admin budget. And so if that can work, I think that could be a really cool, just kind of like um, opportunity to show that support to the community, to that community, and offer them the opportunity to feel safer, hopefully, in wherever they do go. That's a great point, Victor. Anybody else? Okay, cool. Since we've already voted for it, let's just go and let him know that needs to stay within the calendar year. Actually, and Victor, maybe we can talk offline whenever we get together on Monday. Maybe this could be an opportunity, like maybe the Y might be able to host them, or we can offer that up to them as well. And then we'll figure out more of the specifics of if we can use admin budget to possibly pay for additional security for that event. Um, and then if that's the case, I will try to set up maybe an emergency meeting where we can get quorum and vote for just that budget to be used in that way, or part of that budget to be used that way, because we have to be able to vote on it. I'm going to go ahead. There's one more question being raised, so I'll go ahead and move to that. Aaron?
I just want to make sure that, like, when we do talk about security, that we're working really closely with them to make sure that the type of security, if we are able to provide it, is something that they are comfortable with. I know that there has been some concern in other communities, like the LGBT community, about how different forms of security would actually end up protecting them.
No, I think that's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. Um, I know there are hard stops and we're at that moment, so I'm going to go ahead. I know Jen had to go, so um, we'll go ahead and I'm going to make a motion or ask for a motion to end the meeting.
Motion.
Okay, can I get a second?
second.
Okay, cool. All in favor? All right, thanks so much, you guys. Thank you, Victor. Thanks, Jen.
Peace
In the
out.
future. Peace.